What is going on, everybody? I have here a Springfield Prodigy. It's one of my personal weapons I just picked up a couple weeks back. Very bare bones stock gun. Haven't done anything to it as of yet other than added a hollow sun on top. And then we've got the Springfield TLR 1 on the front there. So today we are going to be doing just kind of a first impressions look at this gun. And then as well, Atlas Gunworks sent us a couple of goodies to go with it. I have a brand new 17 round 2011 magazine here, top of the line stuff. They also sent us a flat X-line trigger that we're going to be installing, and then a necessity on all 2011 and 1911 builds, in my opinion, is the toolless guide rod that they sent. So thank you again to Atlas Gunworks for sending these out. We're going to be linking all these in the description. So if you guys are in need of some 1911 or 2011 parts, I would definitely recommend these guys. Check them out. So without further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and get this thing tore down, and we're going to start looking at installation of these parts. So stay tuned. Okay, everything is tore down. Now, if you guys are doing this on your own, by the way, I would just say I recommend a gunsmith do what we're fixing to do, because you know, we do this every single day. We have a lot of experience doing this. However, it is something you can do on your own. Just make sure that you go slow and you know, take care not to do too much at one time. Don't take away too much material. But if you do this on your own, I recommend that you put all your parts in a bin here. Keep that put to the side. I promise you, it's the most frustrating thing when you are working on a gun and cannot find a specific part that you need. So make sure you keep all your parts handy. That way, whenever you go to put everything back together, you know, you have everything that you need. Another good tip, if you're doing this for the first time, you might take a picture of all the parts and how they're laid out in the gun before you start messing with things. There's a lot of good tutorials online. If you guys are interested in a video like that, just leave some messages in the comments, and maybe we can look about doing a video to explain all the complete disassembly and reassembly of this gun. So with that being said, we broke this down into a couple major components. We've got our grip module here, the actual metal part of the frame, which we will not need this for what we're doing today, so we can just put that to the side. The slide we will need later, but for right now, it can just sit over there. This is going to be the part we're working on. So the problem with adding different parts, you know, I've got the original OEM trigger here from Springfield. This one fits like it's supposed to. The Atlas trigger is a smidge wider, so we have to rather alter the trigger or alter the frame in order to make the Atlas work. Most of the time, I would recommend that you just go ahead and do this. It's less, you don't have to do as much if you take some off of the frame or the grip module here, whereas if you take some off of the trigger, for one, you're going to mar up the finish on the trigger, which is going to be shown from right there. And for two, you have to make sure everything is even in here. So it's just a better idea in general to just take a little bit off of the polymer frame. You know, if you have to replace this, I'm sure it can't be too terrible. But what we're going to do is we're going to get a file, and we're going to kind of come in here in these areas. Let me see if I can show you guys a little bit on the video. You're going to take your file, and you're going to be taking away little bits of plastic in this area. We're going to make that channel just a little wider. You can see, actually, if I put this in here, you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. The trigger does go in and it moves. It's just not super smooth. We just need a little bit of material off, so that way this will be able to reset fully. If I put the gun back together as it is right now and I try to shoot it, I'll get one shot and then it'll get stuck. So even with the hammer pushing forward and all the springs pushing forward on the trigger, it's still not going to engage all the way. So we're going to get a one-shot wonder here. So we're going to take a little bit of material off of inside. So let me find my files and be right back. All right, let's get to work. So I've got a couple files here. We're just going to basically take a little bit off at a time, try to make it as even as possible on both sides so we have even clearance. Sometimes this is easier said than done, and it's hard to show on the camera, so bear with me as I try to show you what we're doing here. Now, in general, when working with files, it's recommended that you just go one direction. These files are super old, so it's not really going to hurt them. Plus, this is plastic. I mean, it's not going to do much to them. But if it's a brand new file, if you want to make it last longer, go in one direction and then just push, push, push. Another thing is, it is incredibly tempting just to grab a Dremel and go to town in here. But if you take too much out, you're going to do yourself more of a disservice. So it's recommended, again, just use a file, take a little bit at a time, be patient with it, try a little bit, test fit, so on and so forth. Take a little bit of that dust out. Normally I have an air compressor and I'll just blow it out. Honestly, that's the quickest way. But don't have my air compressor on right now, so you get what you get. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, already it's feeling better. Now I still feel like I'm gonna have to take a little bit more off. Another trick that you can do to see exactly where everything is rubbing. You know, you've got your trigger here. You could always take a Sharpie or something and just mark all over the side of the trigger, because then whatever it's rubbing on is going to get, you know, removed on here, and then we can see exactly where we need. I'm pretty sure that I know where I need to file at, so I'm not going to mess with it. But if you're struggling with this, that's something that you can do. So, okay, take a little bit more off. So one thing you can also do, I kind of worked on this for a couple minutes off camera, just so you guys wouldn't have to, you know, watch a time lapse of the entire thing. But the cool thing about these triggers is they are adjustable, so you can thread this on and off depending on how long your finger is. You know, if you need a little bit longer pull or shorter pull, you can adjust it there. I have short fingers, so I have to usually go all the way down on something like this. But cool thing is, when you're fitting these, you know, back it off a little bit once you feel like you have the sides good, put it in and see. You know, we can test it here. Give me just a second. Okay, and as you can see, like, it's moving in and out from the sides freely. Now I can tell, if you can see here, I'm starting to get a little resistance on the top and bottoms of that bar. So I'm going to take a little bit off of that, and then I think we'll be good. So be right back. All right, I have got this to a point where I am pretty comfortable with. So as you can see, I'll put this back in. It goes all the way in very smoothly, back out the same way. The other thing to note is that just this working in and out is going to smooth up over time, break-in periods and such. The other important thing to remember is we're not taking away, if we're doing this correctly, we're not taking away enough material to where the original trigger, which fit pretty well at first, I mean, it should still work. If we take away too much, then that won't be the case. But this one obviously is still moving just as fine. I mean, there's a little bit of slop in it now because we took away some material, but nothing crazy that it wouldn't still function just fine. Let's talk a little bit about these triggers for just a second. So these triggers, again, are from Atlas Gunworks. The cool thing about them is they come in many different varieties. You can get the curved, the flat. They've got a concave version. Very modular. You can mix and match a couple different parts. You can set these up to work a different, you know, a couple different ways to suit your shooting style and what feels good to you. So again, really great product, especially for the price. So if you are interested in a new trigger shoe for your new build, 1911, 2011, any of that, definitely check them out. And again, I will link that in the description. So let's get ready to put all this stuff back together, and we'll kind of explain what the next step of the process is. All right, one thing I forgot to mention, but I figured I would throw it in real quick before we put everything back together. Especially in, I did have to take a little bit off right here in this area. Let me get something to show you. Right in this area here, just a smidge, and then even even less on the top. I did have to take a little bit of material off there, mostly down here at the bottom. And one thing you might do if you have to do that, you know, it's more aesthetically than anything else, but if you have a Dremel that has a buffing wheel on it, after you're done with the filing, you can come in and kind of smooth everything out with that buffing wheel. I would say you can do the same on the inside here, but I don't really think you could get anything in there. I did use a little bit of fine sandpaper to smooth everything out after I was done filing, and I'm pretty happy with the results so far. Got my trigger shoe here. Let's go ahead and place it in. So you guys can't really, I'm sure, see from or tell from the video here, but there's pretty much zero friction. Nothing's grabbing onto it. More importantly, when it's all the way forward, I can not move this side to side or up and down, so it's just about perfect to where I want it. Okay, when putting it back together, last little trick I'm going to give you guys is in the Atlas Gunworks trigger, and I'm sure that there is other triggers that are like this as well, that you can adjust the length on the actual trigger. What you can do, place that trigger in, go ahead and get your mainspring into place and your grip safety. Put it kind of where it's supposed to be, make everything more or less where it should be, and then you can hold on to the pistol and kind of place your finger on it and see if does it feel good? Is it a good position? Do I need to go that way or that way? In general, from a training aspect, you want this shoe to be in the middle, directly in between the tip of your finger and the first joint, the first little crease there. That's just overall in general. Obviously, I'm not telling you how to shoot. You may shoot completely different than that, and that's fine. As an instructor, that's what we teach. First little halfway point between the tip and the first joint. So once you kind of play with this a little bit, see if you like where it feels. I'm going to try it right here where I have it as of right now, and I can always come back in after I get the gun back together and adjust it more if need be. So let's go ahead and start putting it back together. Let me go grab the parts, and then we'll be right back to finish up this section of the video. Alright, now we are ready to work on the slide. As I mentioned earlier, this is a completely stock gun other than the trigger upgrade that we did a few minutes ago, so the slide itself has not been messed with at all, other than I did buy a adapter plate for the HoloSun and installed that, as well as the HoloSun. I am not a sponsor for HoloSun yet, at least, but their stuff is great. I would highly recommend them for all your optic needs. Okay, so we are going to install this toolless guide rod. So the benefit of this is you'll be able to take your gun apart without having any kind of Allen wrench or anything like that. The current configuration of this requires you to have a Allen key to take this off. So we basically have to have this ready at all times if we want a field strip. We're going to unscrew that. Okay, and that comes out the front. The spring is loaded, so you got to be careful there. But it then allows us to push our spring forward and up. So with this, the way it works, we take this out because I think we need that, if I remember correctly. But we can use all these original parts here on our new guide rod. Okay, and then I will get this thing installed and show you how it works. It's kind of hard to do on camera, so give me a moment. Okay, so I did figure out a fairly simple way of showing you on the actual camera, so that way you guys will know how to do it in the future. But basically what you're doing is you're taking your original piece from your Prodigy and the spring, and you're going to put the spring on the guide rod itself and then put this in. Now, you can put it in a vise if you want. You don't necessarily need to. What we're basically going to do is push this all the way back, and then we are going to push in on this piece here on our toolless guide rod, and what it does, if you can tell, pushes that little lever up and captures everything, making it simple to put in. Now this is under pressure, so you have to be careful. If you accidentally bump this or that, it's going to fly. So we got to be really careful when we're doing this, and just kind of don't point it at your face, because that would not be extremely fun. So now what we're going to do is we're going to place it just like that, and when we go to actually put it on, it should deactivate itself based on how it looks. So we're going to come in like this, give it a good push, release it slowly, make sure everything is in place, and we're done. Cool. So that's how that works. So again, simple yet awesome. Now we're going to put this all back together, making sure we push that up and get it into place. You can kind of see through there. And if you're watching this video by now, you probably are familiar with how the 1911 or 2011 takedown works, but got to make sure that everything is lined up in there, so that way when we take this piece, our takedown and our slide stop, slide release, that it all lines up together. Okay, now be very careful when doing this, because if you're not careful, you'll scratch the heck out of everything. So just go slow, make sure you have everything lined up, push it into place so we don't scratch anything. Cool, everything is back together. We've got our flat trigger in, as well as that toolless guide rod. And again, fantastic parts. I would highly recommend them to anybody. Okay, now that we have everything back together, again, we're gonna just do a couple quick safety checks, just one more time for safety's sake. Safety goes on, making sure that the gun will not fire, whether it be with the grip safety in or not. Safety off, take your hand off of the back grip safety, again, making sure it will not fire. And then we'll go ahead and give it a try with the safety off with your hand on the gun like it's supposed to. Okay. Make sure it resets fully. I always like doing this extra slow. And the reason for that being, pretty much any gun will recycle if you do it fast enough. It will recycle, but if there's something in there catching up, the only way you're really going to be able to tell is if you go creepy slow. So if I go super slow and it resets and it pushes all the way forward, guess what? We should be all set. My finger feels like it's right where it needs to be. Yeah, we're all done. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. Not an incredibly long video, but at least it gives you an idea of some of these Atlas Gunworks parts. And again, thank you Atlas Gunworks for sending those out to us. They are going to be put to good use. We're going to do several videos in the future featuring this gun, so you guys can make sure, hopefully you stay tuned for those as well. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. We got a lot of good stuff coming out. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.